Hi, and welcome to our wrap up episode of The Winter I Went to the Cottage, our heated rivalry rewatch
And reheat.
and reheat. Exactly. I'm Catherine McKenzie.
I'm Heather Webb.
And we are two USA Today bestselling authors. And like many, we've had our The Summer I Turned Pretty obsession, or The Summer I Turned Pretty obsession, anyway, transformed into a heated rivalry obsession. The show is steeped in Easter eggs, callbacks, and lots of Conrad Fisher level yearning, plus some good sex scenes. So we're all good. Now that season 2 has been confirmed, we rewatched the season and reacted to the show. And now we're going to wrap all that up for you. Please like, subscribe, etc. We have some updates. Connor's story was on SNL last night at the date of filming this, but it'll be out later this week. Did you watch any of it, Heather, or see any
I
of it?
did. Oh my god, the clips of him doing the voices, all of the with the other guy, like
I know,
apparently
I
I
don't watch
can't
the show
speak
either.
today. But anyway, yeah, you didn't watch any of it?
No, I watched SNL. I just don't watch it regularly anymore, so I don't know the
Okay.
cast
I don't
members.
either, but I
But
happen
yeah.
to yeah, he did that back and forth with his different accents, and he's so good. I mean,
Oh,
we
yeah,
knew it
yeah,
when
the
he went.
promo clip. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was good.
I saw a
Yeah.
couple of other bits too, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the show was okay, but he was very good. So I find it funny, like at the beginning of any fandom, where people are sort of like, forget that somebody that you love in one role is going to go on to do things that you're going to hate and they're going to have no interest in watching, like,
Huh?
and they'll learn. Like
It
that's going to
happened
be
with Zac Efron, it
what
happened with the
everyone.
Twilight cast. Yeah, it happens.
Whoever you are obsessed with, like,
Yeah.
I have a lifetime obsession with Pierce Brosnan. There's many, many, many projects of his that I have not watched because they're not for me
Or they're not very good or
or they're
whatever.
not good or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So anyway, we did learn from Jacob was on CBS This Morning this week, and production is starting in August. They are starting to film in August. Originally, they said something about it coming out in April 2027. Then they changed the caption. That wasn't entirely clear from what he said. They were suggesting that to him, and he just said, we're starting production in August. But that timeline makes sense based on the timeline of filming of the first season of the show and just how quickly they kind of need/want to get it out to fans, for sure. There was no mention of an interstitial episode during that interview. That doesn't mean we aren't getting one. Maybe they have to actually get into production to see if that's actually going to happen. And some other news, which was a bit sad actually, is that Rachel Reid, the author of the books,
Mm.
announced that her Parkinson's symptoms are flaring up. And also, she's just had so much of her time consumed by all the media she's had to do for this. So that's good news with bad news. Have meant that she asked her publisher for an extension. And so the third book in the series, is being delayed until June 2027. We hope that she's getting all the help that she needs
Oh.
and that she puts her health first. Obviously, with that kind of disease, stress is not something that helps.
Yeah, stress is awful for any kind of illness whatsoever. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I hope she is able to relax a bit.
Yeah. And ultimately, I actually kind of like, again, I think sometimes people are confused about what show they're watching. There is going to be a happily ever after for Ilya and Shane. They just have to go through trials and tribulations and obstacles to get their final happily ever after. But I actually kind of like the idea of potentially being able to watch season 2 without having read the book for what would almost assuredly is going to be season 3. Because I have no impulse control and I will definitely read the book the minute that it comes out. So if it's just about me, which of course it is, then, I don't mind this delay. I obviously, in all seriousness, I want her to take the time that she needs to write it. But I think it might actually be, abstracted away from that, something that makes it more interesting to watch season 2.
You know, it's not just the stress probably of all the media attention and just probably the long hours and the travel and all the excitement, but the stress of how do you follow up? How do you write that follow-up book? I mean, we know as writers, if you've had something do well, the next one after that may not, and it's really nerve-wracking. I mean, I'm sure she's going to get a nice rush of fans, but what if they're not pleased with
Well,
the outcome?
you
And
cannot, you can't please everyone,
you
right?
can't.
So
You
no.
can't, but I can imagine that there's a lot of stress there around that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think also, she never conceived of these stories as continuing stories. They were all supposed to be like one and done with like maybe little cameos in the other books in her Game Changer series. Because the second book, even before the show blew up and the fans were so obsessed with Ilya and Shane, she wrote the long game. But, I don't know if you've ever, I don't think you've written a sequel, but like I write a series and
Mm.
I plan to write it as a series. So I made certain choices when I was writing that allowed me to do that. But I've just written the fourth book in my own series and like it gets harder every time in a lot of ways. You know your characters, but you have to come up with new things for them to go through. That can be difficult. And especially, or like I remember early in my career, my first book came out and people were like, "Oh, are you going to write a sequel to this?" And I was like, "No." Like I wrapped it up. So
I've
I think
had that
there's,
question a few
right?
times.
I think there's, and you write historical, so like even more so, the events that you're writing about have concluded. So like, or the characters have died or something, right? So, but I think she already probably had a bit of an obstacle writing the lawn game, and I don't. Well, she does, and again, I don't want to spoil it for you because again, Heather has not listened or read the second book. But the way there, it's not a cliffhanger at the end. There is a premise at the end of that book for how things could begin in the third book, but I don't know. And I have some idea of the conflict that they're going to face, but it's just a beginning. And I don't think anybody was asking her to write this third book until the show got, probably just based on publishing right before the show got picked up by HBO is going to be my guess. Like, I doubt that she got offered or asked to do a third show based on it being on Crave?
Yeah.
And so all this to say, she probably hadn't written anything. And then to have to write, as you say, under the crucible of the pressure of this insane success. And I mean, if you go online, everyone's like, "Well, this is what I want to see, and this is what I want to happen, and I don't know, you better not do this." And
And you just need to not be online at all in that
my God,
situation.
yeah, yeah. And
Just
she's
don't read
mentioned that.
any reviews. It just gets in your head. I mean, it gets in your head anyway as a writer, so you
Uh,
have to learn how to block it.
you have to learn how to go back to that space. I always give the advice to writers, new writers, that like if once you finish your first book, if you're on submission with an agent or you're trying to get it published, whatever you're doing, just start writing your second book because you will regret not using that echo-free space, to write
Yeah.
what as much as you can before your first book comes out, honestly. It can become a lot. And I've never been under the kind of pressure that she is, so I can only imagine. Okay, and another little tidbit that's floating around out there is that the opening scene of the show, which we're going to talk about, that Saskatchewan, the lighter that won't light thing, was apparently almost cut from the show. So the editor of the show was on a podcast, and apparently there's a 6-minute version of that scene
Oh, wow. That seems
where Shane is trying to make small talk. And I can't even imagine what the 6-minute version of
yeah.
that scene is. And then so I guess it wasn't working. And Jacob was like, "We're just going to cut it." And I guess they were going to start inside at the Prospect Cup. And the editor cut it up and made it shorter for like the promo reel for the show and convinced Jacob to keep it in, which is great, I think.
I really like that opening scene because it immediately introduces you to both of the characters and who they are. I mean, you get a real sense of who they are right off the bat, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, again, like, would the show have flopped if it didn't start there and it started with the like commentary, here at the
No,
Prospect Cup?
probably
But no,
not.
of course not.
It's
But
still a great show.
it's still a great show. But I do think, as you say, as we talked about when we analyzed that episode, like back at the beginning of this show, so much gets done in that very little scene. And it's also, I love because, some people were giving me grief for this when I said it online, but it is a romance and this
Mhm.
is their meet cute. And even though the show works on a lot of bigger and different levels than maybe a traditional romance does, you still need those little tropes to check off so that you
Yeah.
can then move forward into the territory that you're going to cover that's different. And I think like with about 5 lines of dialogue, just their physicality, the way they're dressed, the way it's shot, the fact that it is lighter won't light until Shane is there and then he's the spark. And then we learn that Shane doesn't normally talk to people. Like everything about that scene is a perfect meet cute. And what would their meet cute have been otherwise? Like in the line where he's like, "See you at the draft?" Was that, that's why I'm just puzzled about what the vision was for the show without that initial
Yeah,
scene.
I can't imagine not having it, honestly. I mean, to
Yeah,
get right into the action with the hockey, it would have
right.
been less effective, I think, ultimately. I feel like it would send signals that the show is actually different than what it is. Like, I
Yeah,
love that you get the sense that this is a rivalry and this is a character-driven
right.
show.
And
You
it's
get that
also,
right off the bat.
yeah, and it's a show about like what happens between two people in their private moments when nobody can see them because
Excellent.
right?
Yes. Excellent
Absent
insight.
absent a few scenes that we'll talk about today, everything important that happens between them is when nobody knows what's going on, you know? So they can't be seen together in public even, really. So yeah, if it started with them publicly on ice, and I wonder if there was something else that was shot that they cut because they added this, like, I have a million questions and nobody's asking all of them. Whatever, Jacob, come on the show. I know you're busy. Yeah, yeah. Yes, he's busy, so we understand. But it's always like that, right? We always have questions that are never going to get answered
Oh, of
by
course.
anything. Yeah. All right, let's start macro and move micro for the next little bit. What was your favorite episode?
Oh, easy. That's episode 5. It's impossible for it to not be episode 5. I mean, 6 is so beautiful and touching and satisfying, but in a completely different way. You know me and the angst. Like, if
They're
there's
too.
angst, you know, plus there's just these beautiful moments of like tender moments amidst the angst. They're moving really, it's pivotal. They're moving in the right direction finally. I don't know. I love it. I love it for so many reasons.
Yeah.
And you?
Are they too happy in episode 6?
No, 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 I love but it feels earned, that's the thing.
Yes.
I feel like episode 5 in particular makes episode 6 and them coming together feel really earned.
Yeah. I think it is episode 5, but I want to give an honorable mention to the first episode of the show because both of them, I think, cover so much territory that's really important, and that is a bookend for each other. You know, in a
Yep, yep,
pilot of a show, you have so much heavy lifting to do. Bring you into the world, establish this relationship, upend the conventions that they're going to
mhm,
use, and they really do that in episode 1.
they do.
You know, having watched that episode many times, but also if you want to, if you follow me on threads, you know, I've done literally a scene by scene breakdown of the 15 sequences in that episode. And people talk about the time that's covered, but it's the emotional changes and territory that's explored in there as well. Like we
Mhm,
just know both these people really, really well. And so much pavement is laid for the rest of the show that then we see pay off narratively in episode 5, I think. You know, we meet all the key players, we understand all the key dynamics, we see their first time together, we see their second time together, we see their first fight at the rooftop in Las Vegas. And these are the patterns that they are then going to keep doing over and over again, coming together, it being too much, not being able to open up to one another. You know, so I think it's really, really well done pilot episode and responsible for the success of the show because if you don't like the first episode of a show, you just stop watching, right? So,
really true. I do I'll usually give a show about 3 episodes because I find that most first episodes of things I don't love.
right.
And every time I've really loved the first episode of a show, I end up not liking the show that much. And
That's
I
funny.
don't know why that is, it's just worked out that way, but in this case, I liked it a lot and couldn't wait to watch the next the next episode, so
So this broke your pattern of,
it kinda did, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's interesting for me, like going back and I made a video after I watched only the first episode and that video was about, I found it really sad. I found the show sad. And it's,
Yeah.
it's interesting. I don't feel that anymore when I watch it, maybe because I know like where it ends up. I'm just
I'm
sort of
sure
more,
that has big bearing on that.
yeah, I'm
It was
more,
sad for me too. Those
yeah,
first few episodes felt really sad. Just the hiding and the not knowing and and on the road, loneliness and
yeah,
all that.
yeah. But I think, again, if you're a writer, you want to be a writer, you write for television, you're interested in writing for television or like whatever kind of writing that you do, I think when you dig into something like this at a cellular level, you really can learn a lot. And that's part of the reason why I did that scene by scene analysis, because I'm always looking to improve my own screenwriting. And, in a book, as you know, Heather, we often have like so many pages to accomplish something, right? That
Mhm.
that in on screen you need to boil down to like 3 lines of dialogue or a look.
Right,
Right?
right.
And you have tools in screenwriting that you don't have in books, like soundtracks, and the cinematography that help you with that. But, the dialogue is 80% of the work. And so I just think in both those episodes, so much ground is covered and it just they are to me, they're the inside out of each other. And then episode 6 is its own little time capsule thing where they're
Mhm,
off, having a different experience. But the narrative payoff of everything that's set up in episode 1, that's what you see that in episode 5, I think.
mhm.
So, yeah. So you can't have one without the other is my like long-winded way of saying.
Well, it's true because if you don't if you haven't seen the struggle along the way, I mean, if you haven't seen where they begin and then the struggle, then again, that it doesn't feel like a payoff. It feels, sort of disconnected.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also it's interesting, like being online, the good parts of fandom is that people find different little moments every day. And while I was rewatching episode one, I realized I've noticed in other scenes that there are sirens. Okay, we've talked about that before. Like right on the top of the Vegas rooftop,
Mhm.
there's a siren. And when he's in the tunnel in episode five in Russia, you see a cop car going by outside. Like, for those of you who don't know, any sound that you hear in a TV show, unless it was filmed like outdoors, but it's just filmed on a soundstage and you hear a sound, it's because they put it there
Okay.
intentionally, right?
Yeah.
And I realized that when Shane is lying in bed at night before he goes to the gym for the first time, he hears a siren. There's a siren there when he's lying in bed. This is the kind of thing I want to ask Jacob about. Like, what do the sirens signify? Is it an emergency? Is it a warning?
5 alarm fire,
A five
baby.
alarm fire is about to happen. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yes. Go down to the gym, my friend. Your 5 alarm fire.
Is awaiting
A
you.
little menace named Ilya Rozanov will be down shortly. He is a menace. It's a very funny meme online that calls him like the bisexual menace, and it's a cut from that scene at the cottage when Shane is on the phone with Hayden, and Ilya's like he's got his fingers like doing this because he's about to do something naughty, and it's very very funny. So yeah, I don't know if I can pick like probably episode five, but sort of episode one. Do you have a favorite scene, or like can you narrow it down to top
I
five scenes?
It's hard to say, but
Yeah,
there's probably 3 that are standouts for me. I loved of course, I love the monologue, that's my favorite. But I also really love the hotel scene when Shane says, "I think I might be gay," and sort of just down from that where it's that his dad has dementia and he starts to cry and Shane holds him, they hold each other. That kiss is my favorite kiss of the whole show, and I love it's just a really beautiful moment of vulnerability for both of them, and I love how much it underscores the sweet, sensitive nature that Shane has and brings.
yeah, interesting.
Like, I don't think Ilya could have let his guard down enough with someone who wasn't of that personality type. Like, he
Right.
too much on his guard, and
Yeah.
too wounded and all that. So I think having someone who's so steadfast and just naive but openly sweet and just a nice person is exactly what he needs. A trustworthy person. He needs somebody he can trust. And you get so much of that in those couple of moments. I think it's really, really beautiful. And I rewatched this whole thing and it made me cry again. So yeah, those 2 are definitely my favorite, hands down. There's a lot of other beautiful moments. And fun moments too, like in the bar before the all-star game, and then looking at each other with these grins while they're slapping the hockey stick puck back and forth. I mean, the hockey puck back and forth. I mean, I love that playfulness. But anyway, how
Yeah.
about you?
Well, I think it's interesting that you mentioned the trust because for sure, and that is something that's established in episode one, too, right? When like they have that whole "Have you been with a man before?" conversation, and Shane's like, "Oh, who?" And he hesitates, and then he opens up and he says it was my coach's son back in Russia. And but obviously what they're doing requires a lot of trust, right?
Yeah.
And after their first time, Shane is like, "You're not going to tell anyone," and he's like, "Yes, I'm going to tell everyone." And then he's like, "Calm down, I'm obviously not telling anyone." I'm not insane. And then I think, again, we've talked about this before, but Shane doesn't even realize how dangerous it is for Ilya. Like, Shane's just thinking about for him and what it's like in North America in hockey to be gay, which I don't want to underplay that, but he doesn't get like added layer that Ilya has to go through by being Russian. But I did want to say another thing that Jacob talked about recently, interestingly, for the monologue, you had pointed out that it's the Moonlight Sonata that's playing Beethoven, and he talked about why he picked that.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So to summarize what he said was because Shane can't understand, he just wanted to pick a piece of music that was like a stand-in for how beautiful it sounds to like listen to Ilya pouring out his heart in his
Mhm.
native tongue. And for
Oh,
him, that was his like favorite piece of music. And so it was like the most beautiful piece of music. So it's that's why it's there. because
Yeah,
it's
it works so well, and you know how much I gushed about that the
yeah,
first time we talked about it. I was like, "Oh, I love that he chose that so much for
yeah,
so many reasons."
yeah.
He is under the moonlight for one thing. I mean, there's moonlight and there's, like, the light with the tunnel and all that, but
Yeah, 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 right, good point.
that's a tiny thing. There were a million other reasons I loved it. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and in the book, you do hear because in the book, we know that Ilya said things, but we don't have that speech. Like in the same way, we get a bit of his inner monologue and Shane listening to it. And Shane like has that thought of like, oh, wow, really listening to him being able to just pour, like to speak fluently without any hesitation because he's speaking in Russian and he just like appreciates being able to listen to that. So I thought that was fun little moment because I'm like, oh, we talked about that. Heather's gonna want to know this. That is a good scene in that. I mean, favorite scene, maybe the bar in Tampa?
I love that too. It's
Yeah.
not a favorite, but no, it's up there. It's
I l
definitely up.
I guess I love the whole all-star sequence of the bar, the pool, them on the ice. I
Mhm.
think so
Yeah.
much ground gets covered there, uh, and just they're kind of in, like after the tuna meltdown, they're in reverse positions, right? Like I always think in any kind of romance, one of the obstacles is like when one of us was ready, the other one wasn't, right? And so when Ilya was ready to try a bit of intimacy, Shane wasn't. And now Shane has come out to Rose. He's come there with a plan. Like his plan is I'm going to let Ilya know like, that I like him. I think that's his plan. Not that he loves him, but his plan
I
is to,
agree.
right? So he's like man on a mission and he's not just dressed differently, he's acting differently when he comes in. Like the fact that he even sat down next to Ilya in public, that he orders a beer, that he's dressed differently, that he's taking charge of the conversation. It's like he's much more in his element in his own. He's had a revelation about himself and he's coming
He's more
into
of an
his own.
adult. I feel like he was naive and like not a child, but so kind of in some ways still so sheltered by his parents and under the
Right.
in that kind of frame of mind. And that moment, you're right. It's like he's an adult now, making adult decisions for himself.
Yeah.
Taking risks that he wants to take.
Right. Yeah, he knows what he wants, and like I have a Taylor Swift lyric in my head, but you knew what you wanted, and boy, you got it, and like that's kind of what he is. And then conversely, Ilya in that scene is very different than Ilya normally is, so cocky and so self assured and
Hmm.
teasing, and instead he's just like, "Are you dating Rose Landry?" And he has to ask like four different times, like, "So, did you bring anyone? Oh, did someone take you shopping? Oh, this doesn't have anything to do with Rose Landry. So, you and her," not like four times in that scene. He asks about Rose because that's his like mono focus is he with Rose Landry? Is he about to get engaged to Rose Landry? Like, have I lost my shot? So, seeing him vulnerable, like the inside out of their first meeting, where again Shane initiated back then, but then Shane was like, I don't know what to do here, so like I can't even talk to you. And Ilya's like had his walls up and was being cocky. And then here, like Ilya's just totally not that person, right? Even the way he smiles when he finds out that Shane has a personal stylist is like we've never
Okay.
seen that smile,
And
right?
I wrote that down again. I wrote it the first time, but I wrote it down again the second time of, "And I love that smile." It's like it just transforms his face. It's slow and you see surprise, you see like teasing, you see like total happiness in how just like being a part of this inside watching Shane grow. Like there's all these great sort of micro emotions in that smile. It's
Totally.
brilliant.
Yeah.
I loved it again.
Yeah, I think it's some of his best acting, honestly. Like his time in Russia, also the first time we see him in Russia at the Olympics, his acting is incredible there. But here, because yeah, he's older, his accent's a little softened, and he's softer. Like one of the things that's incredible about Connor's story as an actor, which you could see in that, the clip you were talking about from Saturday Night Live, where he did all the voices. So it's not just the voice; he
No,
transforms
he does.
when and maybe the performance is like more showy than Hudson Williams, who I think is also fantastic, but
He's
but
wonderful too.
yeah,
Yeah.
but he has some bigger set pieces, Connor's story in this show, and even more emotional territory, I think,
The
to have to
villain
cover.
often does.
Yeah, no, that's true.
I mean, the antagonists, they often do have the more difficult, not difficult, just challenging, more dynamic.
Bigger journey. Yeah. I didn't like
Yeah.
I don't think Shane's personality has changed over
That's
the
it.
course of the show.
Right.
I think Ilya, if you think about Ilya in that first scene to Ilya in the coming out to the parents scene, which we'll talk about in a second, he's like, and that's the Ilya probably was there all along, buried under years of
Yeah.
trauma and
Yeah.
hockey culture and etc. But yeah, Shane is not unrecognizable. Ilya in that final scene at Shane's parents' house is unrecognizable.
Yeah, you're like, "What? Wow."
Ooh, wow. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Anyway, so yeah, I think the bar in Tampa, I think just, and then that whole sequence, the pool, him being playful with the kids, and then them being on ice, as you said, where they just have their, in contrast, again, if you go back to episode one, we have their first face off in episode one where he's like, Shane Hollander, will you disappoint them? Shane's like chewing on his mouth guard and he's like, no. And then here they're like, just like,
I
little.
like your imitation of him.
Thanks. No. My accents are not as good as Connor's story, but anyway, I speak better French than Hudson Williams does though. But then that face off in Tampa is them, or sorry, it's back in Montreal, excuse me, but that's them being playful. Seeing them on the ice in Tampa is what I meant to talk about, which is just they're just happy to be in each other's company and to finally like be doing this thing they both love and are so good at, not against one another, but with one another, like literally being on the same team with all the double entendres that implies. So yeah, I just love that whole sequence. I think it's so good. And then I think like third place for me after the monologue, which what more can you say about the monologue? You know, we could talk about that for an hour, but I think the coming out to the parents scene,
Yeah.
that whole
It's a good
sequence.
one.
Yeah.
Talk
I think
about Shane being a great actor too. I think there's
mhm.
a few moments for him, and one of them is really around that. His dad coming up on them and the way he reacts. I mean, my stomach dropped when I saw him react to the dad, and I just went, "Oh God, he did such a great job with that."
He did. And then with his mom too, with Yuna outside, that whole scene, like the apology and, you know, between them and the moment they had to have because like, you know, Yuna realizing she never really knew her son, even though they spent all this time together and on a cellular level, even if they suspected he might be gay, that's not the same as like not realizing that your son's been in love with somebody for years.
And that as a parent is like feeling like you failed your kid because you weren't able to make them feel safe about who they are. And I can
Yeah.
see her having guilt and, regret around that. And that was like a knife in the heart for me too, is watching that. Like, as a parent, you want your kids to feel like they can tell you anything. And the
Right.
truth is, they're not going to some degree. I mean, I think that that's normal too, but you wish they would, and you want to make them feel like they can if they want to,
A hundred
So,
percent. A
especially
hundred
for
percent.
something this important.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what she says, you know. Again, that's a scene apparently that there was a much longer version of that scene that they rewrote on the day and kind of cut it down to its essence, which I think is great that they did
It's
that. Though
great.
a
Yeah.
longer version might also have been great, but I think, you know, her saying exactly what you just said, which is like, I'm sorry that you didn't feel like you could tell me this, you know, is so important. What a great, like you always knew David and Una were going to be fine about him being gay,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, you
it's
know that they love him and he's supported 100.
right. But it's still important for them to have that moment
Oh, for
and
sure.
for them to react well in that moment, you know. And then on the funny side of that is, you know, when Eunice when she asks when, how long, and it comes out that it's like since rookie season, summer before, and she has this expression on her face, and people have done edits cutting back to the first episode because of course she was there to witness, right? Like Shane being distracted and watching Ilya on the ice during the commercial shoot, and then she saw Ilya in the elevator going to Shane's room, you know? And so it's like you could just see like the thought bubble forming of like you know. And I just love the button of it all, like with the parents saying, you know, with them kissing in front of the parents and like your boyfriend is here, and then her saying since rookie season and David saying summer before. I think it's so sweet. Like it's a really, and then them getting in the car and driving off into the sunset, you know, with like, but to me, the show, the real like last scene of the show in a way is that scene with the parents at the table. Like everything here is going to be all right. It's what Ilya says, you know, we are
Mm.
safe here. Like we're good here. Your family is here. Your boyfriend is here. We're good here. Okay. You know, like we're good here.
Which I
And
love.
yeah, yeah. And then they literally drive off into the, well, it's not quite the sunset because
It's
it's,
close.
it's
It
the
looks
middle of
like
the day, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but into the sunshine anyway, which of course calls
It's
back to the
purposeful.
Wolf Parade
Yeah,
song, right?
yeah.
Like Give Me Sunshine. Yeah. So I think, yeah, those are 3 scenes there's so many. I mean,
I
that
mean, it's just really beautifully done. Honestly, rewatching it, reheating it was just as good the second time around. In some ways, better for me because, I've already seen it all, so I can really get into the depth of each thing and really pay attention to other aspects of the show.
I agree.
Yeah, and really, really, I mean, I knew the acting was great, but I could really see for both of them. I was struck so much by Connor's story to start with Ilya. And the second time through, really, Shane is just, he's really terrific too. I mean, he plays that sweet, innocent, awakening,
Yeah.
coming of age character incredibly well. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
they're both really well chosen for their roles.
It's hard to know even who the main character of the show is too. I think we spend more time in
I think it's
Shane's point
Shane.
of view. Yeah, I think so.
He has more growth, really, I think, because
Right.
he's starting from a place of complete ignorance about who he is.
Yeah. 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 And Ilya knows who he is going into it and is
He
comfortable
does.
with it also, right? Like,
Yes. It
yeah,
might be dysfunctional to some degree, but he knows.
totally.
I mean, he accepts it, So
Yeah, well, I mean, he probably has a sex addiction, but which is a theme I think we're gonna see potentially in season 2, but,
oh,
or he
no,
well, no, not in fact Heather, not in a bad way, not in a
it can't
cheating
be.
way.
This is a romance.
No, not in that way. I mean that he uses sex to deal with his emotions,
Yeah, right.
or to
And to feel
avoid his
closer
emotions.
and to
Yes.
avoid. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
not
combo.
in a he's gonna be cheating on Shane
He
kind
better
of
not
way.
be. Smack him around.
No, don't worry. That's not what I meant. Are you gonna read the second book before the season comes out or no?
Not, because I liked that I didn't know. I mean, I read the chapters that coordinated with
Right.
the episodes so that
Right.
I nothing was spoiled, and I read them after I watched the episode.
Smart. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
just I don't know why that worked better. Normally, I always if there's a book to film adaptation, I almost always like to read the book first.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like if something's coming to screen and everybody's loved it, then I go read the book before I go to the movie. You get so much context and so many things from reading a book that you're not going to get from a show
Yeah.
or a movie. And in this case, I didn't feel that way. I felt like the show had so much rich. I mean, there was some of that for sure, but it didn't feel lesser. Like usually when I watch something, it feels lesser than the book, and I did not get that feeling at all this time.
I agree with you. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
there's for me and there's been 4 or 5 sort of like perfect book to screen adaptations where the screen maybe even enhances the book.
Yeah.
And
I definitely felt that way about this.
this is definitely one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt that way about Bridgerton. I think
Right.
it's such a rich, beautifully done
Agreed.
show that I think it brings so much more dimension to the books themselves.
Yeah. 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 By the nature of like the books, sort of again, like this series, each book focuses on one person, but you can bring in the bigger world when you're making a
Exactly.
TV show.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
when you ensemble cast and all that, you can really just build out more, and that's
Yeah.
just a simple yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think it's we shall see. We shall see how much of the book. I said this before. It's not a spoiler. There's not a lot of plot in the second book. There's a lot of emotional territory that's covered, but not a ton of plot.
Okay.
So, which is fine. Again, it's a romance. It's supposed to be about the emotions, not like the
Right.
thriller, turning pages. Though Jacob has said like there might be more cliffhangers in the episodes of season 2, potentially. And there's one big one, which again, I won't spoil for you. Like, it'll be interesting to see how that is portrayed on screen. But yeah, it covers less time. Like the book covers like first book covers like 10 years, right? Or 9 years of time. So it covers less time. There's a time jump and then it covers like 1 year. So, okay, I'm going to stop talking about it because I'll start spoiling it for you. But yeah, I get it. I get it. Okay, you mentioned your favorite kiss. I'd actually put down like what's a favorite kiss, and you mentioned that the
I have a
Vegas.
couple, but yeah.
Okay,
I love the stairwell kiss.
yes, I love that one.
It's just kind of a lovely, sweet, kind of like the first sweet but also hot.
Kiss
But
in the hotel
it's the
room.
dementia kiss for me.
Yeah, the dementia kiss. Okay, I know what you mean.
Conversation and he's
Yes,
being held
yes,
and to cry, and I just oh god, I love that one so much.
it is sweet.
It's
Yeah,
sweet.
I love the stairwell kiss, and I think, though, maybe the Vegas rooftop is my favorite kiss. So at the end of episode 1,
Yeah.
where he finds them up there on the rooftop, and they have that whole exchange where they are just speaking different languages,
Yeah.
like, completely. It's interesting too, when I did my scene by scene analysis, I was sort of keeping score between them because, in that scene, Shane says, like, "Oh, it's just because you can't take another victory lap around me. You always win." And I was like, "Is that true, Shane? Like, is it true that Ilya always wins?" And so, in fact, it's not. In that first episode, in fact, Shane has won more things by that point than Ilya did. So, like, Ilya wins the first thing, he wins the first Prospect Cup, but then Shane wins the second one. And then Ilya gets the first draft pick, but Shane wins their first face off. And then Shane wins the like competition
MVP.
at the All-Stars, and then Shane gets MVP. So Shane is actually up 4-2, or even I counted, I think, their little fake bike race in the gym, which Ilya does win. But he's up on Ilya. So, like, why does he think that Ilya is always beating him? Like, that is such an interesting moment to me, that's his narrative, Like,
Well, yeah, I think it's clearly an emotional reaction.
sure.
It's
Oh, I
not a
mean,
factual one.
no. And because Shane's also ahead in the scoring race. We don't know where they end up at the end of the year, but when we hear about it in the show, we're
Yeah, it's
told
like
that
31 to
yeah,
whatever it
28
was.
or whatever
Yeah.
it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, so Shane actually is beating Ilya all the time, basically. And and he's sort of like, "Oh, it could have been you." And Ilya's like, "No, it was you. It wasn't me." But he's definitely beating Ilya at life from Ilya's perspective. Like, I don't think Ilya actually cares about the awards. He cared about getting the hell out of Russia, and the money and the success keeps him out of Russia. But what he cares more about is like, and what he's jealous of is that Shane has this family life that he doesn't have.
Very much.
Yeah.
And he's well liked. Mr. Perfect, he calls him.
Yes.
You
En
know?
français, in French.
Yeah, I think he's constantly kind of feeling inadequate in that way. Ilya is next to
Yeah.
Shane.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you pointed that out about Shane feeling that way. I didn't really connect with that. And to me, it's a confidence thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ilya has so much more confidence than, I mean, I think it's a certain amount of bravado, but Shane is taking it like he's just such a badass and I'm nowhere near like him. And that makes him feel inferior, sort of, in some way. And it's really just a sexual confidence, I think, a sort of,
Yes.
I
Yes.
know who I am sort of confidence.
Yes. Well, he directs things, particularly in that first episode in the bedroom, and that kiss too. And that's his response, I think, to doesn't Shane say, like, "What the hell do you want from me?" Which is something that comes up again in the bathroom in
Hmm.
episode 2, right? So, and he's like, "Okay, I can take control here." Like, the one thing I know I can control with Shane Hollander is sexually, or he
In the
thinks so,
bedroom.
in the
Yeah.
bedroom. And this is the first time that Shane rejects him, right? And then he proceeds to not respond to his text, but not agree to meet him for another 2 years. But this is the first moment where he comes on to Shane, and Shane actually pushes him away and says no because they're in public. So that's the beginning of Shane kind of like asserting his independence, I think, a little bit from Ilya's sexual control over him. And I don't mean sexual control in any kind of bad way, but just
No, no, no.
he's
Yeah.
powerless. He's up until this moment, he's powerless to say no to Ilya. And that brings him all kinds of turmoil. But in that moment, he gives in at first. And they have a great kiss. Like, they're just like free and in the dark. And as you said, they have like looking out over Las Vegas, and
They
but
have a
having
world at their feet, but it's in
right,
the dark.
but it's in the dark. And then he comes back to himself and he's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And then Ilya, you can see, remember when he's like, "I like trouble." He's like, "Oh, no one's looking," but he's a bit excited about that. And then that gets echoed later in the finale, when he says, "You like to be bad," and he's like, "No, that's not what this is." So I just think there's so much that is storytelling in that kiss. It's impressive. And in the exchange around it. So yeah, I think it stood out for me on, I'm not even going to say what number reheat
Yeah, yeah.
it
No,
was.
don't
Um,
give away your obsession, Catherine.
no, I mean, people, I don't hide these things very well. Currently, I'm obsessed with the Artful Dodger. I've also watched that 8 million times. So I just love love. That's all.
Dude, I'm with you. I end up rewatching a lot of stuff. Usually those kinds of shows, any kind of show that doesn't have suspense, I rewatch at night before bed because it's like
Exactly.
a calming thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Helps me sleep.
Shows, comfort
Yeah.
shows.
Makes me
Yes,
feel like everything's going to be all right in the world.
exactly. Okay, favorite lines. I actually asked on threads in the heated rivalry community for people to give a list of their favorite lines, and there's so
That's
many,
interesting.
right? There's so many good ones, but what stands out for you, Heather?
Honestly, I didn't even write this down this time all the way through. I was just so kind of absorbed in the acting and the exchanges between them. I mean, there's so many funny lines. I love the when the banter picks up around, I think it's episode 2 it gets better, but 4 it's really quite good. The banter is really fun
Yeah.
between the 2 of them. There's nothing that's really beyond the like I hate how much I love you or whatever. It scares me. I don't even know what to do about
Yes.
how much I love you. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
obviously,
In the
that's gotta be my
monologue, yeah.
favorite, but,
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of the lines that stand out actually are those, like, funny lines.
yeah.
A lot of them are Ilya's. So I had written, since their rookie season, summer before, obviously. When Ilya goes to Shane's for the first time, "You will murder me, maybe, get in," like, that's funny. "Shut your idiot face, Marley." "Never in my life have I blushed. Russians do not do this," and
Yeah, that's
when
a
he's
good one
texting
too.
with Shane. "Gimme kiss in the water at the lake." In episode 6. I do like this line. I think I know how the staff likes to be treated after all these years when that's in episode 6 when they're in bed together for the first time. "She would have loved you like I love you." I mean, that's a bit heartbreaking. When he asked what color Shane's dildo is. The thing is, I kind of prefer being the hole rather than the peg. I
Yeah, yeah,
mean,
that's happening.
honorable mention, Tell people before he goes to the club. Wow, genetic. I would give an honorable mention to that whole scene in the bathroom in episode 2. That scene is also crazy good.
The one where he's like, "Get down on your knee I'm gonna get
Yeah,
on my knees on this dirty floor."
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. After so he had rejected him. They then have their first full penetrative sex time, and then Russia happens, and now they're not talking, or Ilya hasn't talked to him in 6 months, and like just his that I thought was the first time that Hudson's acting really shone.
It was really good. He can bring this tearful expression, this tearful gaze.
Yeah,
It's so tender and sweet and not forced, and it's not overly done. I mean, just because someone can turn on the waterworks doesn't mean that it's done well, if that makes any
agree.
sense.
No,
And
I agree.
he's it's just it's always the perfect timing and the perfect amount. He was so good at that. And he did that in the bathroom too. When
Yeah,
did he have to wipe his eyes?
he did have a tear.
Yeah.
And also just the way he's, like, completely mesmerized by Ilya in that scene, like, he goes in there, he's so angry and upset. He's, like, almost hyperventilating before they go on stage. Then they have to do their banter, and Ilya's, like, taking their photo, and he touches his back, and remember those photos, because that does come back in the second book without spoiling anything. And
Speaking of that scene on stage, like,
yeah.
that's more great acting of them having to force trying to be funny with a canned presentation.
Yes,
That
and
had to be hard.
reading the captions and, like,
And they're
yes.
like, "Oh, huh." I mean, they really nailed that whole sort of cheesy yeah.
Stage banter,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I agree, it was really well done. And then he, like, leaves and there's a scene where he's sort of, like, walking off into, the foreground and it goes blurry. There's oddly the exact same shot in the Arthur Dodger season 2, but anywho, and, whatever. And then in the bathroom where he's like, again, "What the fuck do you want from me, Rozanov?" So he's again bringing up what he said on the rooftop, and then he kisses him again. So it's like so many patterns in that. But he's mesmerized. Like he goes through 50 different emotions in about 5 minutes in those couple of scenes, which I think is really incredible. And then is really willing to risk having sex with him in a public bathroom. So dangerous. Anyway, yeah.
Pretty
And then how could we miss the most iconic line of the whole show? "I'm coming to the cottage."
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Duh. Right?
I love too that the song paired with that, like, the second time around first of all, I like the song anyway, but the
Hmm.
song that they're playing that it's like this clashing, sort of chaotic, you could like perfectly mirrors the sort of the magnitude of what just happened with Scott Hunter kissing
Hmm.
Pip in front of everybody and coming out in such a public way and how they both are like shocked and have all this crazy warring emotion. So such a great choice.
It is. I think it's funny because, like, I probably would have turned off the TV. My intrusive thought in that scene, for some reason, is like, why are they still watching this? Like, once you know who won, why are they still watching the cup presentation?
Well,
Narrative, well, it's a
it's their
narrative
whole
reason.
lives,
Of course, of course.
like, and then they watch each other hold the cup and kiss the cup and all that.
Yeah. No,
And then Scott Hunter
yeah.
is 100,000 years old, according to Ilya. So,
But also hot.
but also hot. So, yeah, there's gotta be a little bit of like, "Wow, they won," and watching this guy that was completely the underdog win the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah. I think also, like, we just talked about character analysis for a couple of minutes. You mentioned, the journey that Shane goes on. We've talked about the journey that Ilya goes on, and they're kind of in the inverse of one another, right? I talked about, I think, in the first episode of this show and in other episodes about that's the journey of a romance. When you meet that person, they have the thing that you need to complete you, right? And they're both on the same journey. They're just taking their different paths to being able to go from being able to be honest about the fact that they want each other, which is often the obstacle in these things,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's not here. They're honest about that, but they can't be honest about their feelings. Like, even when the parents are like, "So you've been in love this whole time?" They're like, "No, no, 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 no."
Yeah.
No. Yeah. And again, I expect that we should learn in season 2 that they have to come to a realization that no, actually, they probably were in love the whole time because they still have some journey there. It wasn't the tuna meltdown. It was like, "Oh, suddenly I'm in love with you. We spent one day together. Now I'm in love." Like, no, that's not it. So that's a great journey. But I wanted to talk about the role that the women play in the show. Rose, Svetlana, Yuna.
Is Yuna Kip's friend?
No, Yuna's his mom. Sorry. That's Shane's mom.
Oh,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then Kip's friend.
Oh, and Kip's friend too.
Yeah. Yeah, they're
Yes.
all, like, in these supporting roles.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Like,
even Scott,
support in terms of, like,
supportive.
emotional supportive. Yeah.
Yeah. And Scott Hunter too, kind of like he's the external factor. Like, his coming out is the final removal or barrier that comes down that they're able to like do what they want to do at the same time, I think. But that is so nice to see. And I hope that we get to see like Rose and Svetlana
I'd like to
meet.
see more of them too. Yeah.
I'd like to see them meet and like,
Sort of gossip about the boys, about, "Oh,
yeah,
we saw
yeah,
this coming a million miles away," and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And like,
yeah.
oh, he thought I didn't know who Jane was. Ha ha ha, I would just like them to have like a light scene with them where they're with people who they could be just like totally themselves in front
Mm.
of. It would be nice to see
Yeah.
that, because there's just always so much weight to every other scene. So that would be something that I would like to see. And then I think, Yuna's journey, like we talked about earlier in the episode, just realizing that she didn't know her son. That's also a bit heartbreaking, but I think they can have a closer relationship now.
I think so. And I think, this is just one facet of his life that she didn't know. And it's an
Right.
important one, but it's
It's
and
not,
she suspected it before, which is why
yeah.
she brought up Princess Stephanie or whatever. I think that's why they were like trying to get him to go have some fun for a change. And
Princess
like, how come
Stephanie.
you never have a girlfriend? They're so good, and like
Right.
Princess Stephanie, whatever. And the dad's like, what? Princess Stephanie or whoever it
The
was.
Swedish princess or whatever she
Swedish
was.
princess,
Yes.
that's what
Yeah.
it is.
You're thinking of like Princess Stephanie of Monaco, I think.
Anyway, yeah, the Swedish princess, yeah, so
Does Yuna know him? Like we talked about this before, right? Like he drinks ginger ale, but his endorsement is for an orange drink. He wears Nikes, but she gets him a different shoe. He never wears a Rolex, but she gets him a Rolex endorsement.
well, some of that is, like, you take what you can get,
No,
those are big brands,
a
you know?
hundred, 100%. But if Shane Hollander wanted to endorse Canada Dry ginger ale, they
Well,
would,
yeah, he
right?
probably could,
Right.
yeah,
And then something so interesting. I always had in my head, okay, so in that scene where they do the press conference and their feet tap against one
yeah,
another under the table, right? And then we get that parallel in the final episode, but it's
mhm,
inversed because they're sitting on different sides of one another. But somehow in my mind, if you look at the shoes at the cottage or at the parents' cottage, somebody's in Nikes and somebody's in boat shoes. And I had flipped it in my head and I was like, there's no way Ilya is wearing waspy, like,
shoes,
boat shoes. Like, what the hell? No, he's wearing the Nikes. But that's
right,
interesting because we've never seen him in Nikes before. And I'm like, are those Shane's shoes that he put on? Because he's wearing like on clouds that are actually anachronistic because they didn't exist when he has them on earlier in the show, but whatever. Like, he's not a Nike guy. But it's a little cute little
yeah,
thing there that he's wearing the Nikes now at the end under the table. So yeah, I don't know. It has to mean something. That has to, like, that's again intentional, right? Like, there's some good. I don't know
it
if you've.
feels like it is, yeah.
I
Yeah.
have to go watch. I've only seen clips, but there is some interviews with the costume designer of the show where she talks about the costuming and like what her intention behind the outfits was, and the designer elements of Ilya's clothing, that even if it looks a bit like Shane's, it's actually the designer version of what Shane's wearing and stuff like that. So it's cool. I don't have time to like watch. I will between now and the next season that comes out, have time to go back, listen and back watch all the podcasts and it'll be interesting too to see, because like they will not be able to film this without spoilers now. They filmed before in like complete anonymity, right? Like they were filming in Hamilton, Ontario. Nobody knew of the show. Like if the book had some fans, but
Now they're gonna be stalked
it's gonna be
by the
interesting.
paparazzi.
It's gonna be a challenge for them. Yeah. I don't know about paparazzi. It's just gonna be citizen sleuths, like, because you've never been to Hamilton, Ontario, right? No. Like it's small town. It's pretty small. It's like a bedroom community of Toronto. And yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. They need to move into the soundstage, I think. Because like, or go film at the Cottage, which is in the middle of nowhere, but as you pointed out, can be rented on Airbnb. And for the price of it's their two numbers together, I think the nightly price is like 80 24 80 or something, or like, yeah, on purpose. They did their numbers together. So it's actually pretty cheap. So maybe we'll do an episode from the Cottage
Oh my god, that'd be so fun.
at some point. We'll do a
I would
writing
totally be on board with that.
we'll do a writer's retreat there or something, Heather. For research. For research. And then we can write it off. But as I mentioned to you, we have to pick our time of the year because that place will be bug ridden, like
Yeah.
terrible black fly.
Spring is horrible in New England even for that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
in the part of Ontario that's in, like, it's a nightmare. So you can't even go outside. They didn't shoot that at that time of year. We
Yeah,
need
they
to go
couldn't have.
in like August or September.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. But good for the owners of that house for putting like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that I'd want people. I have an Airbnb, and I'm not sure I'd want people in my house if it was that nice, frankly, because
People
people
destroy things.
destroy things.
They do. They have no respect for other people's things.
Yeah. All right. Last segment. What are you hoping to see in season 2 as someone who has not been spoiled?
Yeah, okay. I would maybe like to see a little bit of interplay with some secondary characters
Okay.
just to broaden the scope of this story and the world a bit. So I don't know who that would be. Besides, I liked your idea of bringing the girls in a bit
Hmm.
more and
Hmm.
seeing them potentially meet. I think that'd be really fun.
Well, he's going to move to a new team, right? Like they set that up.
Well,
He's going to come play
so
in
that'll
Ottawa,
bring some
right?
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. I would like to
Yeah.
see obviously how the relationship plays out. How realistic it is to be able to ever really see each other. I mean, the thing that I don't want to see that's inevitable is that over time, things cool off a tiny bit when things get hard and creates a lot of strife. And I am like, I don't want reality. I just want it to be them falling in love over and over again. But that's gonna happen
Right.
too, I'm sure. But
Well,
in
they've
terms of
had arguments, but they've never had an argument as a couple, right? So that
right.
will be interesting to see how they navigate
Yes.
that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know what I want to see. I want to see more story between them. Absolutely. And then maybe some secondary characters that come in that overlap, kind of like what they did with Scott Hunter, but not where he takes over a whole episode. I would like it to be
More interwoven.
more ensemble-ish,
Yeah.
perhaps.
There's definitely a way, as I think I mentioned, there's a book called Role Model, which is the 5th book, I think, in the series, that is about another couple that is on Ilya's team or involved with Ilya's team in Ottawa. Almost certainly that is going to be a
Okay.
secondary story on the show. And they could do it. They don't have to do a, bottle episode the way they did in season 1. They could definitely interweave that story into, and it might make more
Maybe.
sense
Yeah, yeah.
to do it.
That's kind of what I'm thinking because you can't there's only so much you can have on just focus on just 2 characters over long periods of time. Like, you kinda
Yeah.
need to bring in some other people. And I
Yeah.
don't need every story to be gay or straight, like, let's mix it up. I'll
Right.
have a little of this, a little of that. Let's see it all play out.
Right. Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm more curious just from a writer perspective of, again, I don't think this is this doesn't tell you anything about what happens, but there is a time jump between book 1 and book 2 in that series. And I think he's going to show us the time jump in the first episode. Because, like, in the cottage, Ilya says, my contract's only up next year. So there's a whole year where he needs to be on Boston, which
Right.
means that they're only going to see each other aside from the
Very,
summer,
very occasionally.
the 6 times a year that they saw each other before. Maybe they could see each other at Christmas break. But again, like, Ilya Rozanov flying into Montreal is somebody would notice,
Yeah.
So I would like to see them navigating that, which is actually not territory that is covered in the book, really. It's mentioned, but it's not really covered. And I think I said, I think Shane is going to come out to a few people, and I would like to see, we're going to see that. Jacob has told us we're going to see that being covered. So I think that will be interesting to get those dynamics on the Montreal Metros once Shane is out to his team. Something, again, that happens off screen in the book. So I'm interested, like, when are we going to pick up? Are we going to pick up October? We ended in 2017, right? In July of 2017. Are we going to pick up October 2017? That's my guess. And we're going to, that first episode, if I were writing it, I would cover the territory in a sort of montage. The way he covers time always up to then Ilya leaving his team. Like, imagine Ilya Rozanov mentions that announces he's leaving Boston, one of the best teams in the league, that he made it one of the best teams in the league, but now is one of the best teams in the league and has won 2 cups, right? We saw that. To go to the Ottawa Centaurs, or whatever the hell they're called in the book, which is bad. They're terrible. And Ottawa, like Ilya Party Rozanov.
Right?
And Ottawa is a small government town. Like, I'm trying to think of the American equivalent to Ottawa.
Pittsburgh?
No. Pittsburgh's like 2 million people. Ottawa is like 350,000 or something.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, Parliament is there, but it's not like London. It's and everybody works for the government. That's why Shane's dad works for the government.
So like a Maryland town. It's like some kind of Maryland, like a Baltimore, but
it's not even Baltimore. It's smaller than Baltimore.
Yeah, but
So
Maryland is where all the government workers are.
Right.
Maryland, Virginia.
Yeah, maybe it's like Georgetown. It's a bit bigger than Georgetown.
Georgetown's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, and there's beautiful things in Ottawa. Not that they're going to be, like, taking the scenery and going to the museums, but
yeah.
Anyway, that we're going to send shockwaves through the NHL or whatever.
For sure.
Right,
that would
obviously.
cause a big disruption, I would imagine.
Big disruption, lots of questions. So I'd like to see that on screen, and I think we will. I think the first episode will be that. And then by the end of that first episode, we'll have set up their dynamic now, being able to see each other more often. And then starting their foundation is, I think we're going to see some of that, I suspect. And then I don't know. I mean, even though I've read the book, I kind of don't know because, as I said, there's not that much plot. So, and TV needs plot.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I don't think you need to worry about there being less sex because Jacob has said there's going to be a lot of sex in season 2. So, yeah.
All right.
I don't think that's not a problem that they face. In fact, if there's something in the books that I found unrealistic, is that because like when you've been together that long, passion does fade at some point,
Yeah, it does. We don't want to get into that for the show, though.
No, we don't. You're right.
It to be hot the whole time.
Hot the whole time. Yeah, I think there's actually more sex scenes in the second book than in the first book, potentially.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And there are some iconic sex scenes that the actors have said they want. One in particular, which I won't even give the name of it because it kind of gives away the story around it. But Hudson has said that he wants that scene. That would be a scene to film. Like, if you think they've been vulnerable now, if they film this scene like the way it is in the book, whew, okay.
Well, I look forward to that.
Yes. But we're not here for the sex, right? Come for the sex.
Ultimately, I could skip it and just do the relationship stuff.
Me too. Though there is relationship stuff in their sex, I think.
For sure.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. The actors got matching tattoos that say sex sells, which I like. It's interesting to me because ultimately this is a love story.
That's very short-sighted. Yeah.
Well, I don't think they mean it like that. I think they mean that's the entry point for these story making. Like, it is the thing that brings you in, but it's not the reason that you stay.
I also think sex in the context of that quote is it means more than actual sex. It means like what is sexy, which is beauty and danger and glamour and sex and like physicality. Like there's a lot of things that go into sex sells, really.
Yeah. And they're like 25-year-old dudes, so we don't need them to
And
be
one
that
day they're
deep,
gonna be
right?
like, "What the hell did I get that thing for?" So, that was a dumb decision, but anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Wait,
Uh,
whoops, did I need to get that on my roof or my body?
I mean, I could have seen them get, like, a hockey puck or
I
something.
know, I was surprised. Or like the Metros and the Boston Raiders, or
Yeah,
I'm coming to the Cottage or something like that. But yeah, whatever, So
whatever.
interesting. Yeah. I thought it was sweet the whole team was there at Saturday Night Live. Hudson was there, Jacob and Brendan were there, the creators. Rachel Reid was there. So Robbie GK was there. And then a whole bunch of celebrities came to watch. Olivia Rodrigo
I saw
came.
that, that's so funny.
Kate Simone Astley, who's in a movie that's about to start filming with Connor Story, she came. So that was cool. So yeah. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to see their success, and we wish nothing but the best for them.
Absolutely.
Yes. And for
Rise
you,
stars.
for sure. And to you, dear reader, dear listener, yeah, thanks for listening and watching. We'll come back from time to time when there's something to talk about, as I'm sure there will be if they're filming in August. And even before then, we'll have some updates at some point. But thank you so much for being here. And this has been fun. And maybe we'll do it for another show. We'll see. And in the meantime, we went to the cottage,
We
right?
sure did.
We sure did.
I had a tuna melt and a tuna melt down, and I went to the cottage.
I still haven't had a tuna melt, though.
Yeah, I actually bought the stuff for it, like, a couple days ago, and I had plans to have one while we were on together, and I just didn't, I had a thing before this that I had to record, so,
No worries. So we didn't need to
it
no, it's
killed the
okay.
idea. One
Yeah,
of these
well,
days.
okay, you can report back about if it's good or not, and maybe I'll maybe I'll try one, but I don't know. Cheese and tuna fish just sound disgusting to me. And on that happy note, again, thanks so much
Thank
for
you,
being here.
guys.
See you soon.
Bye.